Thank you, Mr. Sivan, for having finished paper on time, your presentation on time, and it has really been a very wonderful presentation. I find it's quite original, and the arguments also came out very sharply. And you have given a critique of sovereign democracy, and you are raising a new question for further studies, whether we can apply this notion of sovereign democracy to Naga democracy, Naga society. Very good. Now I invite Dr. M.T. from NUPA to make his presentation. His topic is Incorporation of Christianity among the Ao Nagas, a case study of Colloqium village. Please. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and
our respected chairperson and our president, NSA, general secretary, and dear friends. This paper that I'm going to present now is an extraction from my thesis, my PhD thesis, which I worked during the year 2015 in a village called Colloqium village. So I'm presently writing a paper basing on this topic. So why I'm presenting this paper today is I want to get your opinion, your suggestions before I finish the paper. I want your input in the paper. That's the reason why I'm presenting this paper today. So my study was an ethnographic study. I stayed in the village for around 6 to 7 months. Most of the data was collected through interview with the village people and also through secondary source books. I think I don't need to define the term Naga here in this group, even Okay, for this presentation I'll be referring to my notes because I want to put out as much as information as I can in the limited time. So I'll be referring to this note which I prepared. So our tribe is one of the 14 recognized tribes in Nagaland, primarily residing in Colloqium district, and population is more than 90% Christians. Our tribe comprises of 2 moieties. Okay, the Ao tribe comprises of 2 moieties, namely Chumli and Mungsan, which is again divided into tree, and each Christianity was explained. The traditional religion of the Ao was explained by the writers. Till now, the study that has been done. Belief, the word belief, I want to clarify that it need not be necessarily associated with religion or religiosity. There's a disconnection from religion, and this may be true, this might be true with the case of the Aos. Because the narrative of the Ao, the central narrative of the Aos, on which their politics, social structure, functional system is based, is not lacks religiosity in a sense, and therefore the major part of their religious activity was directed towards appeasing the deities, spirits, and then the relationship was not that of a creator and a created, but it was more of a symbiosis between the humans and the spirit, because they considered the world Earth is a shared platform between the spirits and the human being. There's no distinction between this world and that world. The priests did not perform ceremonies or offered sacrifice to win converts or followers, or they were not trying to teach some kind of moral lesson to the people, but it was done for the purpose of distancing or limiting the influence of the spirit in the life of the people, or for seeking favor whenever they feel they require it. So unlike Christianity, the creator of the heaven and the earth played a diminished role in the social and political life of the Aos, and which is usually associated with the moral aspect of the life. Folktales, for example, is one of the major components of the oral narrative of the Aos, and folk tales was understood mostly in terms of metaphorical terms, and it was often used as a tool for rationalizing. They operate in a principle, so the traditional religion, the principle that lies within the religion is, in my observation, they operate in a principle of perceived reality. Example, the perception that we are living in a flat world, we see the world as a flat world, that is our perception, and then our perception of the sky is like a dome. This is the earth, and the sky is covering the earth like this. So that's just one example of what perception could be. So that perception is the objective reality of the people. So the underlying principle is based on that perceptive reality of the people, which informs them. They were not tied, or they were not connected to the spirits in eternal servitude like in Christian religion, or they were not needed to be redeemed or saved for salvation. The relationship was not that kind that we see in Christianity. And then their belief system seems to be an outcome of post hoc rationalization of their experience and interaction with the elements of the nature. And therefore theirs was an evolving doctrine with a collection of established dogmas. So coming to incorporation of Christianity now, how Christianity was incorporated and accepted by the people and what enabled them to be accepted. The seemingly impenetrable cultural fortress was penetrated by a force that seduced and smitten the hill people, offering an alternative to a laborious life, a life free of suffering, which was in sharp contrast to the phenomena that they were existing. They were the promise of life without sickness, without hunger, and the prospect of having an everlasting life was taken literally, and it would mean immediate relief to the people. So we see why it would have been taken literally. And the malevolence of the spirit they worship, which needed to be appeased by sacrificing animals, falls as a burden on the Aus who survived on subsistence farming. However, this new religion, the Christianity, presented an alternative, a benevolent God, a provider, and a giver. Our Nagas were not told that the spirits and deities does not exist, but they were told that it existed as an evil spirit. And therefore, they did not have a God resembling that of a Christian God. They did not have that kind of earth-shattering experience when some new idea was introduced into the society. And their animistic belief was not much of a restriction in imagining a new God, because animism is rooted in acceptance of multiplicity of spirit and deities. The Aus did not have a way of differentiating between the Christianity, between the religion, the medicine that the missionary was providing, the missionary himself, and the technology that the missionary brought with him. They were not able to differentiate between them. To an Au Naga, accepting that the medicine given by the missionary was better than their way of curing disease means accepting his religion. That's how it was presented to the people as a package. It means the message was not differentiated from the messenger. Use of medicine proved advantageous for economic point of view, as it means avoiding the taxing practice of animal sacrifice. The lifestyle of the missionary, use of medicine for curing illness, application of modern knowledge, and use of calendar for counting days in season was very helpful for agrarian activities, for agricultural activities. And once converted, a Christian is under a moral obligation to spread the word of God, and it empowers them with a sense of responsibility to make his or her personal God everybody's personal God. The root of such endowment is derived from the Bible, which gives authoritative and commanding instruction to the believers on Christian duties and responsibilities. Superior knowledge of the missionary puts an impression of inferiority on the Aus, and therefore it also provided the missionaries with an elevated position that would allow them to preside over the Aus. Such perception came from the fact that once Christianity was accepted, the missionaries were considered as the bearer of gospel and believed to be on a mission of divine design. Such perception become reinforced with time and can be seen in the positioning of themselves in contrast to the white man. They consider themselves as someone who needs to be saved and redeemed, in the others as someone whose action and whose knowledge must be emulated. All this did not happen without resisting or without opposition from the people. Of course, there was opposition, there was resistance when new kind of ideas are introduced in society, and when it starts to disrupt your continuous way of life, the normal way of life, people then often respond quite violently at times. That seems like a human nature. So there's no reason for us to think that they did not revolted violently. There was, of course, opposition from the society, and with the growth of Christianity, the non-Christian population was started to push towards the periphery of the society, and Christian ethics was becoming normalizing. The traditional beliefs and practices were relegated to the background, and it comes to the point that they cannot afford to remain unconverted. The conflicting situation came to such a point, and I suspect that they did not anticipate the implication of Christianity. They did not suspect that it would come to this point because they were not able to fully comprehend what is Christianity when it came to them. Like they had many gods. They had no problem in accepting one God, like Hinduism. Like Hindus, in my observation, they do not have a problem in accommodating one God because they give respect. They worship numerous gods, and they have no problem in giving respect to what some other people consider as God. This is one of the underlying principles of Buddhism. But Christianity comes with a purpose that it's going to be the only God. While the villagers were I'll leave that portion, and coming to the Protestant church, belong to a Protestant Baptist denomination. Protestant church are independent church in nature, and then they exhibit a higher degree of flexibility in integrating into the diverse cultural environment around the world, and emphasis on change to take place. This adaptability towards change offers the possibility of independent and personalized way of approach towards adapting the Christian teachings, Christian values, and Christian morals. In the meantime, without discarding the cultural ethos, they were given an approachable personal savior who is always really the good of the world. Christian teachings were propagated sincerely, and the general perception about the traditional practice has become to be fixated as an epitome of evil practice or evil way of living. For instance, a phrase such as light to the darkness or age of darkness or slaves of the devil are commonly used by the people referring to the pre-Christian era. To the people, coming of Christianity was not a coincidence. It was not an outcome of colonial expansionism or any earthly pursuit of political, economic, or religious interests, but a predestined fate designed by God. To them, they believed that it was not coincidence that the early missionaries' effort with the Nagas among the Assamese and then in Assam and even in Arunachal failed. They believed that there is a reason that it failed, because God had planned for us. That's what the people believe. Christianity stands as a symbol of authority and right. To them, the church represents emancipation from evil bondage, enlightenment, and joy, and way to salvation. The relationship of an individual with the church is detrimental to the position of the individual in the society. In the way to achieve a favorable position in the society is by means of having a close association with the church and its members. The church here, I don't mean the physical structure of the church, but I mean the institution, the social institution of church. Here it does not mean that close association with church is the only way to achieve a good status in society, but it enhances or legitimizes the status of the person or his achievement as a man of God, as a man or woman of God, because in our society, at the end of the day, it all comes down to whether the person was a good Christian or not. And an achievement or a success of an individual is almost entirely attributed to God. It is therefore a yardstick to measure the character of an owl, but depending on his relationship with God. We often hear the owls use the phrase, "He is a good man, but he never goes to church," or "He is a learned man, but he contributes nothing to the church." Here we can see redefining the notion of goodness and badness based on around the interpretation of biblical scripture. While customary system runs on the concept of continuity to preserve and transmit the customary norms and practice, church runs on the concept of change for both the past belief and practice, and brings changes through understanding of the scripture and aspire to attain a utopia of religious life. With the coming of Christianity, traditional belief was not discarded or become insignificant or meaningless, but it underwent a positional change, and instead of disbelieving in it, the existence of it was further reinforced. Christianity came to create a position in itself for itself and began to describe the traditional belief in its own narrative. Christianity reinforced the traditional belief, and this lesser understood phenomena was given a substantial explanation about its validity, affirming its malevolent existence. The word of St. Augustine that the pagan gods does exist, but only as an evil, seems applicable in this situation. Owls today do not perform rituals of sacrifice to the deities, but they are neither contemptuous towards it. According to the belief, I'm running out of time. Christianity brought in a new content which was incorporated into the existing body of knowledge, and it is interpreted and understood in the light of Christianity. They are exposed to it from a very early age, and is taught in parallel with secular education. Religious activities are at the forefront that keeps the owl society occupied, and this activity requires the involvement of all the believers. One of the major problems they face, the challenge that they face, was not concerning the religiosity, things about God, but it has to do with the cultural ethos, the cultural praxis. Because Christianity created an uneasy interaction, making it difficult to carry out the social transaction that the community used to have. Because theirs was a homogeneous society, society functioning as a unit founded by uniform social norms, but the introduction of Christianity brought hindrance to the execution and implementation of such norms, giving rise to uneven social and cultural landscape. The effort was in one hand directed towards achieving evenness in their social and cultural landscape, while on the other hand it was directed towards fulfilling the Christian ethics and duty, which can be seen today. The norms and ethics of our society today are such that it assumes every single member of the community as a Christian, and therefore it has to be applied uniformly, and there is no scope or possibility that some member may not be a Christian or may not want to follow the same rules. And this leads us to the understanding that to be an owl is to be a Christian, and to be a member of the community means to follow the same religion. In this sense, society is homogeneous. Community-centered life reflected one point of implication on how they are informed by the scripture or shaping their opinion can be seen by understanding the economy, their point of view about money and economy. I'm quoting from my thesis here that Max Weber's spirit of capitalism arising from the pursuit of a calling is getting less materialized in the form of economic gain as it did in the Western society, but is rather getting materialized by the denial of it. The pursuit of calling must quench the spiritual thirst and must be fulfilled through suffering, sacrifice, selflessness, and giving, and not through gaining. The attitude of the people is not, in the name of God I will aspire to prosper, but in the name of God I will endure with what I have. And a poor man learns to embrace poverty and be content with what he has and accept it as his destiny. And therefore he do not feel the need to be ambitious, because God's providence is already guaranteed in the Bible. Bible says about it. I did not write the Bible quote. Okay, this is the end. To say that the owls were enemies would be wrong because they are still one. The owl Christians are enemies. They follow it but without obligation and reverence because their loyalty now lies somewhere else. The doctrine of animism still lies at the core of their belief. For them, Christianity is a way of life, a tradition, and keeping a tradition and keeping them not just spiritual and religious identity, but the self itself, the self itself in the society itself is defined by their religion, and therefore giving rise to a new cultural identity. Therefore, calling of Christianity did not give rise to a very much different situation, but it was fitted into the same spectrum of worldview that they had. So it was incorporated into the system that was already available in the society, and that's by interpreting the existing condensed knowledge of the society through the light of the Christianity, and that is how they achieve the identity that they exert today as an owl, as a Christian. Thank you.